of inquiry is deemed to be endorsed by the committee. Second, coordinators decided by written procedure to reply to the letter on the requirement for gender balance in the committee bureau and to recommend that no action needs to be taken at this moment of time in view of the cases pending before the General Court on this issue. Item number 3, adoption of minutes. If there are no comments, I declare the minutes adopted. So, then we can come to item number 4, which is the report on the institutional aspects on the future of European competitiveness, the so-called Draghi report. Today, we shall proceed to the adoption of that draft report, a total of 207, and an agreement was reached on 25 compromise amendments. So, without further ado, we can proceed to the vote. We'll start with a test vote. The vote is open. I think it works. Okay, colleagues. Compromise Amendment 5. Who is in favour? Who is against? Abstentions? Adopted. Compromise Amendment 6. In favour? Against? Abstentions? Is it clear? Let's check. Compromise Amendment 6. I close the vote. Adopted. Amendment 66. In favour? Against? Abstentions? Rejected. Amendment 67. In favour? Against? Abstentions? Rejected. Amendment 68. In favour? Against? Abstentions? I think it was adopted, but let's check that. I open the vote. I close the vote. It was adopted. Amendment 69. In favour? Abstentions? Rejected. Compromise Amendment 7. In favour? Against? Abstentions? Adopted. Compromise Amendment 8. In favour? Against? Abstentions? Adopted. Compromise Amendment 9. In favour? Against? Abstentions? Adopted. Compromise Amendment 10. In favour? Against? Abstentions? Adopted. Compromise Amendment abstentions? Adopted. Compromise Amendment 13. In favour? Against? Abstentions? Adopted. Compromise Amendment 14. In favour? Against? Abstentions? Adopted. Compromise Amendment 15. In favour? Against? Abstentions? Adopted. Compromise Amendment 16. In favour? Against? Abstentions? Adopted. Compromise Amendment 17. In favour? Against? Abstentions? Adopted. Compromise Amendment 18. In favour? Against? Abstentions? Adopted. Compromise Amendment 19. In favour? Against? Abstentions? Adopted. Compromise Amendment 20. In favour? Against? Abstentions? Adopted. Compromise Amendment 21. In favour? Against? Abstentions? Adopted. Compromise Amendment 22. In favour? Against? Abstentions? Adopted. Compromise in favour? Against? Abstentions? Adopted. Compromise Amendment 24. In favour? Against? Abstentions? Adopted. Compromise Amendment 25. In favour? Against? Abstentions? Adopted. Amendment 1. In favour? Against? Abstentions? Rejected. Amendment 2. In favour? Against? Abstentions? Rejected. Amendment 3. In favour? Against? Abstentions? Rejected. Amendment 4. In favour? Against? Abstentions? Adopted. Amendment 5. In favour? Against? Abstentions? Adopted. Amendment 7. In favour? Again? 8. In favour? Against? Abstentions? Adopted. Compromise Amendment 1. In favour? Against? Abstentions? Adopted. Amendment 13 in favour, against, abstentions adopted. Compromise Amendment 2 in favour, against, abstentions adopted. Amendment 17 in favour, against, abstentions, we must check that. Amendment 17, I close the vote. It was rejected. Compromise Amendment 3 in favour, against, abstentions adopted. Amendment 23 in favour, against, abstentions adopted. Compromise Amendment 20 against, abstentions rejected. Amendment 27 in favour, against, abstentions rejected. Amendment 28 in favour, against, abstentions rejected. Compromise Amendment 4 in favour, against, abstentions adopted. Amendment 35 and 36 in favour, against, abstentions rejected. Amendment 37 in favour, against, abstentions, we have to check that. I open the vote for 37. Close the vote. Rejected. Amendment 38 in favour, against, abstentions, we also have to check that. 38, I open the vote. I close the vote. It was adopted. Amendment 39 and 40 in favour, against, abstentions, it's also not clear. I have to open the vote for 39 and 40. Adopted. Against, abstentions adopted. Amendment 47 in favour, against, abstentions rejected. Amendment 48 in favour, against, abstentions rejected. Amendment 49 in favour, against, abstentions rejected. Colleagues, we come to the final vote, which is a roll call vote. I open the vote. I close the vote. Congratulations. Colleague Benify. Can I say what lasts long becomes good in the end? There's a German say, I don't know whether that exists in English, but okay. No, thank you for your cooperation on this report. Colleagues, then we come to a very special topic for what we extraordinary meeting today, namely an amendment of the European Electoral Act, allowing members to vote in plenary by proxy voting during pregnancy and after giving birth. 26 June 2025, President Metsola informed me of the decision of the Conference of Presidents to endorse her proposal made before the European Council meeting of 26 June for the tabling of a targeted amendment to the EU Electoral Act. This amendment would allow members who are pregnant or who have just given birth to delegate their vote, we call that proxy voting, to another member of their choice in plenary sessions. Now, Article 6, Paragraph 1 of the current European Electoral Act needs to be amended, since this Article 6 of the European Electoral Act provides that, I quote, members of the European Parliament shall vote on an individual and personal basis. In order to introduce a system of voting by proxy in plenary sessions, the legal provision defining a member's vote as a strictly individual and pended. Our colleague, Lopez Aguilar, who is already rapporteur of the other revision of the electoral law, was confirmed rapporteur of the file as well. So that, Juan Fernando, I have the pleasure to elaborate a little bit what we are talking about, and maybe also introducing the text which we were thinking about to amend the Electoral Act, first of all.
Und nochmal zuerst zum Geburtstag viel Glück. Ich erinnere mich, dass sie ist geboren, dasselbe Tag als John Lennon. Und das Guevara war ermordet in Bolivien. So,
muchas gracias.
Herzliche Glückwünsche. And now let me present now the draft report on this sensitive amendment of the Electoral Act. First of all, you have reminded that, yes, I am the rapporteur of an ambitious, far-reaching proposal endorsed and adopted by this European Parliament as to the Electoral Act, the EU Electoral Act. Ambitious and far-reaching as it is, I appreciate the chance of presenting a very specific and targeted amendment of the Electoral Act, which, of course, doesn't preclude the ambitious reform which is still pending, but it is worth adopting a very specific amendment insofar as it fills a gap which I find, and surely most of us find, to be untenable. It is the situation of pregnant members given birth or about to give birth to a child, having the possibility of exerting their voting rights as MEPs, casting their vote by another MEP acting as a proxy. That is the issue here. It's Article 6 of the Electoral Act, which, no surprise, according to comparative constitutional standards, defines the vote as personal and non-transferable. It's a personal issue. But there has to be a derogation in order precisely to consider this specific situation I refer to. And the thing is that the issue is subject to a very specific, a very special legislative procedure. We're all aware that it's European Parliament adopting a proposal, but then the Council has to endorse it unanimously. And when it comes to the Electoral Act, also notifying their endorsement by all 27 member states. All 27 member states have to approve in accord requirements. So it's a complex process ahead. And that is why I'm presenting a very targeted, narrowing scope, but meaningful reform of the Electoral Act in order to actually mothers and expectant mothers in the European Parliament as full members, exerting their voting rights, enjoying their full rights as MEPs, even in that situation. Of course, I would like to say that my personal ambition and my personal approach as to this file is widen its scope, because first of all, I happen to be a Spaniard, and I was once Minister of Justice, and we actually reformed our laws and even our parliamentary regulations, our parliamentary rules of procedure, both in the Congress of Deputies, which is the House of Commons in Spain, and the Senate. Only pregnant women, but also the fathers, and not only in those situations, but also in critical health conditions, members which are impeded to actually vote because they're having surgery or they're going through some, can actually also be taken care of. So yes, I happen to have given a look to the comparative parliamentary standards across the European Union, just to notice that Spain is on the top, along with Luxembourg, which has also a very specific provision. Not those far-reaching, but they have provisions. But as for the rest, there is no particular solution to this situation. But I find it untenable that the European Parliament has not actually fill this gap. But the thing is that we have also been told clearly that, according to the original step forward, is sticking to its scope. Sticking to its scope. That is why I'm presenting the limited scope and narrow scope amendment, which from the first paragraph, which is Article 6, a pregnant member or a member who has recently given birth may have her vote cast by another member acting as a proxy for a period of up to 3 months before the estimated date of the birth of the child and up to 6 months after the birth. The door for further progress in the future, further up in the road, it could be done. But the thing is that, unacceptable as it is that the European Parliament has no rules in this area, I think we should be pragmatic in order to adopt this provision, sticking to the scope of the case presented by President Metsola before the Council, so that we can actually secure that at least this provision is adopted not only by the Parliament but also by the Council by unanimity, and then endorsed by the 27 member states, which is the way forward to make it happen. And I thank you if you understand the draft report I'm presenting for this matter, and the announcement that the deadline for amendments is set to 17th October this month, 17th of October at noon, and it could proceed with a fast track so that we could actually complete the legislative procedure by the end of the year. Of course, just needless to say that I'm still working on the 2022 reform proposal. It has been a team pushing for harmonized electoral rules, provisions on campaign, candidate presentation, gender balance, postal voting, and EU-wide constituency, which is a point that was made by this European Parliament. But as we negotiate on this 2022 reform, let's have this specific amendment of Article 6 adopted the best way forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Juan Fernando. I know that it is a matter close to your heart, just like many other reforms of this kind that you have implemented as Justice Minister in Spain. So thank you very much for this introduction, and that you elaborated a little bit how the procedure will be, that it needs, after we vote here in favour in plenary, a unanimous decision in Council, and then, according to the constitutional regulations in the Member States, it needs. Then I would like to give the floor to the shadow rapporteurs for a maximum of 3 minutes, starting with the European People's Party, Shadow Rapporteur Ana Miguel Pedro.
Thank you, dear Chair. Just a quick word on behalf of EPP. First, to thank our rapporteur, López Aguilar. The draft presented reflects the approach we can support, which is a target and deliverable amendment focused on maternity. At this stage, I agree that our priority must be to move the procedure forward swiftly. The text addresses a clear and a specific challenge faced by members during pregnancy and after giving birth. It is balanced, operational, realistic, and is designed to secure Council approval, which, as we all know, requires unanimity. Other forms of absence will risk diluting the proposal and undermining the chances of success. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, Marieke Elas. Yeah, Marieke Elas is there. For the Patriots, please, Marieke Elas.
Thank you very much, Chair. Also, many thanks to the rapport for the amendment of the electoral law. As you know, our group is not a supporter of the broader reform of the electoral law, but in this very specific case, I think we are happy to move forward to make it possible for pregnant women within the European Parliament, members who are pregnant or have recently given birth, to vote by proxy. Again, to echo what the EPP has also said, but the rapporteur himself as well, we need unanimity in the Council. We need to keep this as tight as possible and to ensure that there are no further loopholes that could extend or give way to an extended interpretation of this very specific derogation that we have in this case. Of course, I have some minor concerns in terms of the practical application of this derogation. So I assume this would eventually be organized in the rules of procedure of Parliament. And there we need to be very clear that any proxy authorization needs to be made in writing, that it can be revoked at any time, and that only one member can act as a proxy at a time for one other member, so that we don't have pooling of proxies. That being said, I think the draft presented reflects what we have discussed before, and for us, we are happy to proceed on this basis. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed. It's not only the European Electoral Act, but also the statute and the rules of procedure would have to the other. Next speaker for the ECR, Tobias Boszensky.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Rapporteur. The proposal is non-controversial. We can support it. If we are considering widening the scope, as the rapporteur said, in the future, we must remember that wise and proper evolution is always better than revolution, so we don't need to be always in avant-garde, so we can support the proposal. Thank you.
I will this quote report to the President, wise and proper evolution. For Renew, the one and only Sandro Gozzi.
Happy birthday, first of all. I mean, of course, we agree on the content because it was one of our proposals who had been rejected in 2022. So, I mean, I'm happy that now the groups agrees with the fact that we have to introduce special rules on the maternity and, in our view, also paternity leave. We would have liked to insert already in the proposal that the Parliament made on the electoral law. So we haven't changed our mind. And we haven't changed our mind on the fact that it shouldn't be only for mothers, but should also be for fathers. So this is our position. We think that the approach of the rapporteur is good, but it's too narrow. Then it is clear that except, I mean, some specific modification which were introduced, if I'm not mistaken, in 2002, we are talking about an electoral law which was adopted in 1976. So it is clear that it was another world. It was clear that certain rights and certain needs and certain, modalities were not in discussion today, must be introduced. Like this one, used this occasion to push to open a negotiation with the Council on the electoral law proposal as a whole, the one we have proposed in 2023. Because each month we will have specific issues which concern an obsolete electoral act. In July it was the Spanish month, there was the threshold. October is the maternity and paternity leave month. Can say that I can foresee that there will be a disabled voters month, a digital vote month, a postal vote month, a gender issues on electoral law month. So it is clear that in our view, we need strongly support a EU-wide constituency, but this is not the only issue of our proposal. There are many other issues that should be tackled. So on the content support, we rely on when he says that this doesn't take away commitment from the main mandate in our view, which is to reopen negotiation on the electoral law of 2022, which this negotiation, it will be my last word, would help us also to tackle other outstanding issues, such as the issue of the threshold. Thank you very much, Chair.
So thank you very much. I can't help but remark that you in the Green Group have an interesting division of work. When Freund is the shadow rapporteur, Van takes the floor, and when Van Landsroth is the coordinator, Freund is present. But I give the floor to my friend.
Thanks a lot.
Van Landsroth.
Thanks a lot, Chair. And first of all, happy birthday. The reason for us sometimes shifting is actually because for a long time I was on paternity leave. And in the past 4 months, that has sometimes put me in difficult situations because I a proxy vote. And besides that, I wish for every father to also be able to spend the first week born. Imagine that your wife has a C-section and she cannot walk for the first 2 weeks, and you need to be there to provide care. In those situations, I think fathers should also be able to have a proxy vote. It seems to me like we are using this opportunity to bring something we created in 1976 to that. It's better than it used to be. But if you look across Europe to the national parliaments, I think it's not only maternity leave that is better arranged in all national parliaments, but also paternity leave. So I would hope that our rapporteur can bring this not to 1996, but to 2025, and include in the scope not just mothers, but also fathers. And I had the impression that the spirit of the proxy voting agreement that we raised to parents in its entirety and not just mothers, and therefore I will propose an amendment to widen the scope slightly, because I think that will suit the Parliament better and bring us to this time. And I know that in Spain, when it comes to proxy voting, Spain is very ambitious, and I hope that Juan Fernando, you can also take inspiration from the rules in Spain that you have advocated for yourself to include them here. And I understand you mentioning that we need to have a targeted and specific amendment, but I think widening it slightly can still have can still be reachable and will have a more positive effect. Thank you.
So now I would love to have a grand piano in the room because he would start to play now. Next, for the left, Nicolas Faratouris.
Happy birthday, Chair. I wish there was a piano here to sing all together. Next time, well, that's a good idea. Next time. Congratulations to the rapporteur. We fully support enthusiastically his work. And I wish to join my voice for all good reasons already heard, for this right to be extended to use of parental leave as well. We do have this in Greece. There is this right in other constitutions and electoral laws in other member states. And I think it's fair, both for reasons of inclusiveness and equality, to be extended to parents as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker for the EPP, Laurent Vince, please.
Thank you, Chair, and happy birthday. Not that colleagues believe that we don't want. Listening to all the political groups, it seems that there is a consensus about the support for the maternity leave. And later we have different interpretation trying to broaden the scope. On the EPP group side, we will be very strict because this is what we agreed, that it will be a targeted, and not only targeted, but very specific amendment of the electoral law that would enable pregnant women before giving birth and after the birth to home and to give their vote, a proxy vote, to another member. It is a special medical condition, it's a special life event that the Parliament wants to support, give the opportunity to members to enjoy that period, and it's very personal, of course. It's only the mother who can give birth. We can think about many other events in life or situations where somebody cannot be here in the plenary to vote, but those cannot be the scope of this amendment, because that would mean that this Parliament will not fulfill its role, and the mandate would not be as we want it to be. Needless to say, we are in a special institutional architecture. It's not only the Parliament that takes the decision, but mostly and more important on the side of the Member States. So even if we would want to be more ambitious, this would not fly with the Council. We would also like to work more on the text, on the specific now. The text is speaking about two members. So one member who is pregnant and another member who has recently given birth. Actually, it is the same member, so before birth and after the birth. Also the period that we make reference to is, as we agreed, it would be 1 month before the birth and 6 months after the birth of the child. So what our text would sound like, just to show you what is in our head, a member may have her vote for up to 1 month preceding the estimated due date and up to 6 months after giving the birth. It's more precise, more concise, more short and easily implementable proposal. Regarding the colleague Godzi's remark on the other electoral laws, we must see that for the moment we are waiting the full ratification of the 2018 electoral law, and it's up only to one member state, Spain, and then we have something new with many ambitions that the Parliament had at that time in 2018, changes that we stick by still. We want them. 2022 is a bit further, you know very well, the opinion of most of the member states regarding its ratification. So, colleagues, thank you to the rapporteur and for all the political groups for the open and clear support. We can work on this shortened text, and I'm sure we will be successful. Thank you.
Next speaker is our first Vice President of the Parliament, Sabine Verheyen.
Thank you very much. We also in the Bureau discussed this question, and I really want to make clear that broadening the scope is a difficult issue, because if you start broadening the scope to fathers, to parental leave, the question will directly be what's about a serious illness, what's about disability, what's about other questions, and then to limit that is it's difficult. I just want to say that because afterwards we sit here with 200, 300 members having a proxy. One has something serious, something important, or something else. It is a very special task. You are elected. And I say very clearly, I have given birth also to 3 children throughout my life. I would keep it a bit more flexible in the time before and after, because you have different pregnancies. You might have had difficulties in one pregnancy, and in the other it's fine. You can fly it up to the last days. It's not a problem. And in other situations, you are not allowed to fly from very early beginning of the pregnancy because there are difficulties. So to give a little bit of flexibility would be good in the time in the clear time of that. But to broaden the scope, I think as a difficulty, because first, we want to reach something. Member states are perhaps not willing to broaden the scope too much. I think a step-by-step approach, or starting with a special reason, motherhood, that we want to support, that we want to see also as a special we want to support, I think is important and the right way to do. And that's the reason that it's good to support this approach. To broaden it to parental leave will open the discussion to all kinds of reasonable situations not to be here. And I think that's difficult to frame that correctly. So full support for the approach we have now, but I would really wish to have a bit more of flexibility for the time before giving birth in the situation, how the health situation of the mother in the pregnancy looks like.
Thank you very much. Is there any other member who would like to take the floor? This is not the case. Then we have the Danish presidency in the room, Ms. Clara Kilius-Rødgaard, who asked for the floor. Where are you? Yes, please. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the floor and for the invitation to today's meeting. The Danish presidency has taken due note of the recent call from the President of the European Parliament to reopen the Electoral Act to enable MEPs who are pregnant or have recently given birth to delegate their vote in the plenary. And from the Council side, we recognise the importance of this issue and the principles of inclusion and representation that it reflects. And we have listened carefully to today's discussion on the draft report, and we stand ready to facilitate a process and once a formal legislative proposal is tabled. So thank you very much again for the opportunity to come here today, and we will of course follow with great interest the next steps of this draft report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Does the rapporteur have any concluding remarks?
Just appreciation for the comments I just took note of. And you know what? I do share some of the points that have been made, even by those who have raised the issue of an electoral act that dates all the way back to 1976, so obviously obsolete. Yes, it's only obvious that throughout these 45 years of direct election of this European Parliament, which is such a unique institution precisely because of it, because it's the only directly elected legislative supranational parliament in the world. And the thing is that throughout these 45 years, has grown the most and changed the most is precisely this European Parliament. Not only in size and complexity, because of its internal pluralism, which has been growing all along these 45 years, but also in powers. This European Parliament was not that powerful back in 1979. Now it's a true parliament. We invest the Commission, we vote motions of censure, we control the Commission, but we do make laws here. We legislate in this European Parliament. So, of course, it has to be changed, the Electoral Act. Of course, I am ambitious about it. Of course, I do share that we shouldn't lose sight of all the issues which are still pending, not only the EU-wide constituency, but also postal vote and harmonizing rules and trying to parliamentarize and make it more political, the process to elect the European Parliament, define the political families which are running for election. So that voters do have the incentive of identifying which are the choices and how do they matter when it comes to the composition of the future European Parliament and how it's going to make an impact on the EU decision-making process and law-making process. Of course, I do share that wider ambition. And of course, to my liking, of course, I would open the way for parental leave too, of course, to my liking. But I have been given the notice that it would be a no council and the further process of notification of the 27 member states. So I try to refrain my draft to a realistic and pragmatic approach, and I do not give up the wider ambitions of the Electoral Act, which are still pending. And by the way, also by the rules of procedure. I think we should also modify when it comes to motions of censure. I feel to see that motions of censure are voted without a proper debate, without defend of the motion of censure and the Commission defending itself before the motion and against the motion of censure. That should be the way, the parliamentarian way. So we have many issues ahead, many pending issues. But let's face it, is it acceptable that in all of our political groups, we have seen members of our political groups, women who, by giving birth, cease flying, stop work, and then they stop voting? Haven't we all seen in our political groups women that, after giving birth, are stopped and impeded to exert the parliamentary voting rights as other members and keep complaining before Roberta Metsola and sending letter to letter? So this is unacceptable. And now we have a way to somehow fill this gap and somehow bridge this unacceptable status quo. And if we are given the chance, in my understanding, we should do it. It would not be understandable that by widening the scope, we miss the point, or we are given the chance to actually repair this untenable situation that we have seen, the status quo. That is why I'm sticking to the pragmatic, realistic approach. But of course, I am looking forward to your amendment round, and I thank you for your constructive approach, each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As the rapporteur mentioned, the deadline for amendments is 17th October at noon, and the coordinators propose the whole procedure will be in English only. The vote in committee will take place most probably on the 4th of November. Is there any other business? If that is not the case, I would like to thank you very much for the warm atmosphere today and the sincerely kind congratulations. The next meeting will take place on the 4th of November. I would like to thank the interpreters and wish you all a very good day. The meeting is closed.
Happy birthday, all the best.